everybody, it's Zach. Welcome back to the Heroverse. And guys, I just got done with Stargirl Season 3, Episode 7, called Infinity Inc. Part 1. As you guys can see, I don't have my microphone. My iPad literally was on 7%, and the sucky thing about my microphone is I can't use it because it only works with my iPad because there's a piece that connects to the iPad to the microphone that makes me be able to do it, but that piece does not fit into my iPhone. So I'm going to be doing my spoiler review for Stargirl without my microphone. But to start off about this episode, I was really excited for this episode. One, because a lot of my kind of like theories kind of came true, mainly because I theorized that we were going to be seeing shade in this episode because, we saw like a shady mist in the promo for this week's episode. And I also was saying, I wonder when, Jenny's going to be coming back, because I saw it and I think I was like in a promo for like the rest of the season. I saw her like coming back in an episode. I was like, okay, I know Jenny's going to be back. One, because we knew that Mr. Bones was going to be the villain of the season, and we knew Mr. Bones had a connection on where, Jenny's brother was, Todd, where Jenny's brother Todd was. So right away, instantly, I thought to myself, I asked the question, like, okay, if we see Shade in this episode, and we weren't quite sure what was going wrong with Shade's abilities, because we know that there was something going wrong with him, because we saw green inside of his, like, his darkness, inside of his shade. So I was curious to know, okay, like, I was wondering, does this have to do with the bigger villain at hand of who is spying on everybody in Blue Valley? Or, and we're going to see Shade come back maybe later down the line, and maybe it involves something else, like, what's going on with him? But I wasn't sure if we were going to get Shade back this season or not. But I kind of maybe thought, since we saw that in the promo of this week's episode, that we saw shady, like, like a shade in the promo. And I was like, okay, like, is it Shade? And I was wondering to myself, when is Jenny going to ask, Courtney for help? Like, is Jenny going to come back to Blue Valley? And that's going to, like, she's going to have a lead that leads her back to Blue Valley and find out that, that place, the place that, Pat and Courtney went to. Is she going to find out that actually, that place has her brother there and that girl was lying? Like, is she going to find out, and is she going to, like, go back to Blue Valley on a trail to find her brother? Or is she going to be outside of Blue Valley and she's still going to, and is Courtney, like, going to go to the same place that Jenny is and ask for Jenny's help or whatever? And is Jenny going to ask for Courtney's help? Like, I didn't know how they were going to do it, but in a way I was kind of correct on the stance of, like, in this episode, Jenny asked for Courtney's help to get her brother, because Jenny's the one that finds out that the girl I forget the name of the place ended up lying to her, to Courtney, and to Pat about where, like, about where her brother was. I guess that Jenny asked before there of, like, oh, like, is my brother here? And she said no, and she wasn't the first person that told no about her brother being there. Again, we all know that lady told Pat and Courtney that, oh yeah, Jade isn't here. And remember, and I guess, that's when she kind of, like, I guess in that moment, they're like, oh, we didn't know. I guess they mentioned that Jade had a brother, and they're like, oh, we didn't know, because she ended up calling, Mr. Bones, saying, I didn't know, or Todd Rice had a sister. That's what they ended up saying, because when they were looking for Jenny, and they kind of put two and two together, like, oh my God, Todd Rice has a sister, and they're looking for her sister or whatever. And then that kind of like and they kind of get something on the trail of, like, oh, she's looking for her brother, and then that kind of, like, she warned Mr. Bones about that last season. And, it was very interesting, because we ended up finding out in this episode that Shade has been working with Jenny ever since Shade found out, like, his abilities are going all haywire. And I totally forgot the reason that Shade's abilities are going all haywire is because in last season, when they were in the school, after the whole big school fight, we see Jenny and Beth, and they end up finding a little bit of Eclipso's, darkness there. And then that's when the darkness ends up going into Jenny's ring after she thought she destroyed it. And that's the two worlds of, like, the darkness and the light are merging together. That's why Shade's abilities are, like, going all haywire. So that's what, like, he tracked it to Jenny. And because Jenny's powers were going all haywire, and same as how Shade's powers are going all haywire, because, again, the darkness is in with the light, and they're merging together, and they're worried that something catastrophic could happen, and, like, they could both end up dying and getting even weaker. So pretty much, that's why they asked Courtney to help. But in the span of them asking Courtney to help, there is Sylvester comes up with a plan to literally turn out all the electricity in Blue Valley, so that way, and again, he does this plan with Beth, because Beth is the one that's able to hack into to Blue Valley's grid and is able to turn out all the electricity in Blue Valley. But they're all like staging things to make it sound like they're all acting normal. They're doing their day-to-day life because they don't want the person that's spying on them to know that they know about the cameras. Which, that was very funny, the way Pat was acting to Mike, saying, "Oh, Michael, would you want a thigh or a chicken leg?" Because they're sitting at they're having dinner right now, which was super funny that he's calling him Michael. I'm like, way to not sound like you're just having a normal dinner. It's like they're acting weird, and it's like anybody would be able to pick up on that. Especially, I love how literally Sylvester has everybody on comms saying, "Make sure you guys act normal," and I love because freaking Barb and Courtney are the only ones acting normal, asking each other, "How's your day?" And they're like, oh, and Courtney's like, "Oh, school." And tests, and she said, oh, like she said something like, oh, like, but friends, meaning like, she still feels some type of way because she feels like her friends want nothing to do with her, and she feels like she's kind of down in the dumps because she's no longer Stargirl right now because Sylvester, like, they want Sylvester as their leader, when she said, oh, it's probably best for Sylvester to be the leader of the JSA for right now. And then that's when Yolanda said he already is, meaning that she's kind of feeling this type of way, like, I'm doing school and I kind of don't want to talk about the harsh fact of, like, I feel like they're not my friends anymore. You know what I mean? I feel like they're not my friends anymore, even though I don't want that. And I feel like they don't want me to be Stargirl anymore, and maybe that's what I was supposed to do, is get everybody together and then me not be Stargirl. She's feeling some type of way, but you could totally tell like Sylvester's like giving them props, saying good. See, even like Barb and Courtney are naturals. They're making it sound like it's normal Pat. And just Pat just keeps saying Michael, and Mike is acting all weird about it, and it was just very funny. Yolanda, of course, is at the cafe, and she's listening into everything that's going on. And I love how like Sylvester's like, Yolanda, you're doing a good job. You know what I mean? You're the only one that's really acting normal. And of course, we have Mike, we have Jakeem, we have what was Zeke, and we have Rick, all at the like pretty much at Pat's, or I guess at Zeke's shop. Or I guess you could say it's Pat's, but I think it's Zeke's, or I think it is Pat's, but Zeke works there. And they're literally playing, like, it's like game night for them. They're saying it's game night, and you can tell Rick is totally not happy with it. He just wants to get to it. He just wants Beth to hurry up so he can just get to it, get rid of these cameras, find out who's behind everything. And I'm kind of a little bit worried about Rick in this episode, because I'm not gonna lie, Rick was the best part about this episode, because I'm not gonna lie, I was so happy that Rick was saying that, oh, you know what I mean? I forget what he said, like, oh, he said, oh, I forget what Jakeem or what Zeke said. They mentioned something about, oh, running out of time or whatever. Like, oh, you ran out of time. And he's like, oh, that's he's like, oh, that's the only thing that's going to be running out of time or whatever. And he looks down and like he sees the hourglass on his belt buckle, pretty much saying that that's the only thing that's going to be running out of time. That's the only thing I really have to worry about anymore. So I just really did love that, like that Rick was so happy that he didn't have to worry about the hourglass, only lasting an hour. It lasts 24 hours now. So I really did love that, he was kind of like in the zone. He was kind of owning it. But he got to the point where like he was overdoing it, to the point where like Beth does the final blow to take out the electricity, and it's go time for everybody. Of course, Yolanda is still at the cafe right now, at the diner, but Rick and all them are like, they're getting into their gear. Like Rick and Beth, they end up heading out to the school to look for the cameras at the school. We have, Mike, of course, and Pat and Barb and Courtney are all looking around the house for all the cameras. And literally Sylvester was just flying around Blue Valley. I don't know why, just making sure that everything is okay. So we didn't really get much of Sylvester in this episode. He's kind of just flying around, making sure everything is okay, and making sure everything is ready. So that way, when the lights go out, I guess to make sure nothing happens on the ground while they're looking for all the cameras. And this was a solid plan. Because, again, we have, Rick and we have Beth going to the school, and Rick is totally in the zone where he's like, telling, Beth, like, oh, I have to flex a little bit, I don't have to worry. I took out the dampener. So, I don't have to worry about, my hourglass, not lasting more than an hour. It's 24 hours now. I'm all strength all the time or whatever. So when he punched the wall, he's, I think Beth's like, oh, is that really necessary or whatever? Like, oh, and then he just gets all hyped up and he ends up punching. He ends up punching to show Beth that actually, like, he's not running out. Or she's like, oh, you really needed the hourglass to do that? And then he's like, no, but like, I don't need the I don't have to worry about it just going gone or whatever. I want to prove to you that I don't need, like, it's 24/7 now. Like, it's not an hour, and I have pure strength all the time when I want it. And he ends up punching a beam, and I thought to myself, like, that dampener got put there for a reason. I think it's affecting maybe Rick's, like, DNA, maybe, or like his, like, or maybe it will make, I don't know, I feel like that his father put that there for a reason. So I'm a little bit worried to see where that goes, because again, he seems very more on edge, more like, like, oh, like, like the power is getting to him. And I think that's why his father put that hour mark in the hourglass, so it only lasts an hour, so that way that wouldn't happen. And I think Rick will learn that as it goes on. Maybe that was his father put it there for a reason. And of course, I think Rick will understand that once he puts it back, because I think he's going to end up putting the thing back. Or it might just be his ego, where he's just, he's just, he's cocky right now. But I feel like it's not that. I feel like it's that the hourglass not being 24, like being 24/7 now, being like 24 hours now instead of an hour. I feel like that's affecting his DNA, and that's why it's making him act like this. Even though he is happy that he doesn't have to like worry about his hourglass not working and going on, like, leave it, and then hourglass not working after an hour is done, and then he's useless in a fight. So he's just happy right now. But that was the most entertaining part to me, is that it's just how he was acting, because I was there with him. I was like, okay, let's go, Rick. Let's go, Rick. I love Rick. Rick's like my favorite character. They're all, at the end of the day, like, I love all the characters, but like Rick is my favorite character. When it comes to like someone with like brute strength, I love that shit. And also Rick has a sick ass outfit. But I feel like that was a really only highlight of this episode, because I mean, other than that, we have Yolanda dealing with her mother, like when she chooses to go back home to see if there's any cameras inside her house. And of course her mom, ended up calling in with, when Yolanda was at the cafe, I guess asking Yolanda's boss to see if, she was actually doing late night shifts. But it turns out, the Yolanda's boss said, oh, she's only done that once. So right away, Yolanda's mom's like, oh, where have you been all these times that you've been staying out extra late, telling me that you've been doing, working overtime and stuff like that? Like, what's that all about? Like, you were doing like late night shifts and stuff. And, Yolanda, her mom catches Yolanda come in, and she's like, oh, you're sneaking in or whatever. And then pretty much grilling Yolanda for no freaking reason, saying like, oh, I don't trust you. Like, where have you been? Give me your phone. I want to see what's going on. Is it boys or whatever? Meaning, like, she's just treating Yolanda like shit, and treating her like she like can't like trust Yolanda. That's literally, she can't trust Yolanda. She's ashamed of Yolanda. It's like Yolanda just can't catch a break. And Yolanda pretty much said, like, I don't need to give you my phone. No, you just need to trust me. And that's just it. You know what I mean? If you love me, you like, if you trust me and love me, you'll stop this. And that's when she's like, oh, it's either you give me your phone or you leave. And then that's when I knew right away. I told my sister, she's gonna move out and she's gonna go to Courtney's. I'm calling it right now. And that's exactly what ended up happening, because we get to the point where like Shade ends up coming, grabbing Pat and Courtney in the basement while they're looking for cameras down there. And there was 2 cameras down in the basement in Sylvester's room. But Shade ends up coming and saying, oh, I need Courtney. She has to help me with something. And then Courtney and Pat were like, we're in the middle of something. And then Courtney's like, also, I don't have my staff or whatever. Sylvester has it. And he's like, I don't need the staff. I need you. And right away, Pat ends up running in. Well, of course, Shade ends up taking Courtney. And, that's when Mike goes downstairs, ends up telling Barb, okay, their flashlights are down there. Where the hell are they? What's going on? And that's when Yolanda ends up popping up, pretty much saying, I know me and Courtney are kind of, in speaking terms or whatever, but like, I had nowhere else to go. And I really felt bad for Yolanda. Yolanda has had a bad break. You know what I mean? Like, Yolanda, she just can't catch a break because of her mother and because of her family. And I mean, it's really upsetting that, all because of what Cindy did, they don't trust her anymore. They're ashamed of her. She can't hang out with her friends. It's nothing but work, because her father got laid off. And I'm pretty sure her and her father and her mother are both like getting a divorce, from what I understand, I think, because that's what it sounds like. He got laid off, and it was like a couple of episodes ago where like, Yolanda's mother's like, oh yeah, that's the only reason, why I'm letting you do these, like, be out for so late to do your work or whatever, is because, your father got laid off. And I'm pretty sure that, they're not in good terms, Yolanda's mother and Yolanda's father. So, I don't know. That's a little weird. I hope that's all good there. But, I mean, Yolanda just, she's had enough, and I don't blame her, because, her parents are asses. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not good. And that's what, and even Yolanda said that to Beth, saying, it's because my parents are stupid. And I mean, and they're crappy people. or maybe they're just crappy people. That's what she said, but your parents aren't. So, I just feel really bad, and I think this is the perfect way for, again, Courtney and Yolanda to get back to being friends and getting that, like, connection again, is that this is actually good. For one, also, good for, Yolanda to get out of the headspace and get out of that constant berating that her mother does to her about saying, oh, what are you doing out? Oh, we don't trust you. Oh, is this boys? You need to be back at home at this time, and this, and that. It's good that, she's like, I think this will make her parents realize that maybe we should have trusted her. Maybe, we didn't have to go this hard, be this harsh to her. We did this, we did something, we did all this wrong. We need to say sorry to Yolanda and tell her that we love her and trust her. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll realize that they're making a mistake. I'm hoping that, and I'm hoping that this gives, again, Courtney and Yolanda an opportunity to have that close bond that they had in season 1. You know what I mean? So I'm really hoping they can get back to being friends, which I know that they will. I mean, they're not going to be friends again. You know what I mean? They're all on the team. They have to become friends again, the good, so they can all work together on the team. But when we get to Shade takes them to that place, and it's in the basement of that facility that, again, Courtney and Pat went to, looking for, I think, Jenny's brother, or looking for Jenny, and they knew right away, like, oh, Jenny came here looking for her brother, and then that's how the girl knew that, and told Mr. Bones, like, oh, we didn't know Todd Rice had a sister. But we get there, and then Shade's like, oh, I tracked the reason why my powers were going haywire. They both explain what's going on, how Shade met Jenny, and how Jenny met Shade, and how Jenny doesn't trust Shade because Shade's was part of the reason that her father died and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, let's take this down a notch. And we have a peanut butter and chocolate situation. That's what Pat said. I'm like, peanut butter and chocolate go together. Dark and light do not go together. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's a great combination. Like, what are you talking about? Terrible analogy, Pat. I was like, that's terrible. But Jenny asked, of course, Courtney to help. And, Courtney pretty much, was able to, like, help, Jenny control her powers a little bit by telling her, okay, focus or whatever. Focus on good memories. And that, what I mean? So we can break this lock so we can get in and go get your brother. So we can fix the solution. So Shade can go back doing his Shade things. And you can go back doing, doing your things with your brother. I'm hoping by the end of all this that Jenny and also Todd will end up joining the JSA. I'm hoping. But who knows? Honestly, I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. But a weird, going off topic a little bit. In the beginning of this episode, we start off seeing Jenny getting kicked out of her, or out of the group home because she turned, I guess she could turn 18, where she is no longer allowed to be in that group home. And also we end up cutting, at the same time, we end up cutting to Todd, her brother. And, when Jenny opens the box that has, like, the car that is Todd's, that says Todd at the bottom, and she ends up grabbing the ring, it ends up pretty much, like, when she has her eyes glowing, Todd has his eyes glowing, but then he has this, like, darkness with inside of him that ends up coming out like this shade. And that's the thing that we saw in the promo, is that was Todd having shade inside of him, like darkness within him. I'm not sure what that's all about. And I think we're going to figure that out as we keep going in the next couple of episodes. And now that we're kind of in, like, the Mr. Bones, like, he is our villain now of the season now. I think that, like, he's been our villain. I feel like that made it more clear that he's been spying on everybody. It is Mr. Bones, which I've been saying that's the only thing that really made sense, is it's Mr. Bones looking at, like spying on everybody, because it got confirmed last year that he was going to be the big bad, and also got confirmed at the end of the season that he was going to be the big bad of this season. So, last season into this season. So, honestly, like, I really did enjoy the fact that, we kind of, like, we're in the Mr. Bones as our main villain now of the story, even though it took us a minute to get here. But I loved how, like, it was kind of a mystery of who's the one that killed the gambler. I kind of like what we're doing, and I kind of like how, like, in the sense of, like, where everybody's trying to figure out who killed the gambler, it's a perfect opportunity, because this season is called Frenemies, to have, again, the enemies and the friends become, become a team. Frenemies, you know what I mean? Like, you're my friend, but you're my enemy. Like, them becoming friends, but they're still enemies. The Injustice Society and the JSA, but, like, it's like they're coming together. Because we saw when they come together, we saw that last season, that once they come together, they're unstoppable. And I feel like this was such a perfect opportunity to get everybody to, like, well, in the span of everybody's going through their going through like their they're trying to make a change. They're trying to become good. All the villains. We have a villain come back that we don't know it wants to change, and then the fact of the gambler dying, it got villains and the heroes wanting to work together to find out who killed the Shade, and it makes it makes the team. And if anything, Mr. Bones killing Shade, I mean killing the gambler was the perfect thing to get both of them, both sides to work together in a way. You think of it like in a perspective of like how they worked together last season to take down Eclipso, but it's like no, since Sylvester was back, it kind of put like a wrench in the system, and you know what I mean, of all of heroes and villains working together, because again we had someone that thought the old way of that thought the old way of looking at the Injustice Society, and that pretty much stopped the enemies and like in the heroes to work together. You know what I mean? So I kind of like how like Mr. Bones thought of that perspective of like, oh, I'm gonna throw a wrench in their plan to get so they don't get back together again. I bet you that's how he was thinking. But that's just like a theory of like, oh, that was smart thinking on Mr. Bones. God knows if that was his actual like intention to kill a gambler, so that way the heroes and the villains would like not work together. Maybe because I still think that something is the reason for Sylvester coming back from the dead. I feel like it still is Mr. Bones the reason that Sylvester came back from the dead. Who knows? I really don't know what Mr. Bones' powers is. All I have an understanding is that he's just a pervert and he's just spying on people. That's the only thing I've grasped so far, is that he just wants to spy on people. He has no powers. And also when we first saw him back in season 2, at the end of season 2 in the finale episode, he looked great. When we saw him again here, he kind of looked like rubbery, like it was like a kind of like a rubber, it looked like a rubber like I guess like skin was over his skull. It didn't really look like that when we saw him and when we saw him for the first time last season. So I thought that was a little bit weird. It's gonna take me a minute to get used to that. But other than that, though, we end up getting to the point where, like, again, we have Shade, we have Pat, we have Courtney, and we have Jenny all going up into the room that, that Jenny's brother's in, Todd, and he's being tortured, and we don't really know what, like, he's, like, in a way, like, they're torturing him to try to get something out of him, and we're not quite sure what. I was assuming maybe it was the darkness that happened before. They want him to, like, have that happen again. Who knows? Maybe he wants to control that darkness. Mr. Bones, who knows? I don't really know what his intentions are. We'll probably find out in the next couple of episodes. But, it comes to the point where literally, Jenny and we have, Courtney all walk in, and, right away, that's when, Jenny says to Todd, oh, like, or I guess, or like Todd says to them, like, who are you? And then that's when Jenny's like, oh, I'm your sister. And that pretty much, they're like, oh, like, Jenny's like, oh, let me get you out of here. And Todd's like, no, don't get me out of here, because if you let me out, I'm going to kill people. Like, I'm going to kill people. Like, don't do it. And, she's like, I'm not going to leave you again. And then that's when we have this big Shade come out. And right away, we see, like, Todd turn into, like, this shady, blue-eyed monster thing. And then that's when he's about to, like, attack Courtney and Jenny. And then that's when Shade and that's when Pat jump in front. And they end up being sucked into the shadow dimension. And I kid you not, I was so annoyed about that. I said, I can't believe we are back in the shadow dimension. This is not what I wanted. I was like, I liked how that was last season's plot. It made sense. But I'm kind of bummed out that we're back in the shadow dimension. I did not want to do this for like a repeated like thing from last season. That's the one thing I really have loved about the show, is that it doesn't repeat itself a lot. Like, it doesn't repeat itself, but it feels very repetitive, that the fact of like, okay, before it was Cindy and Courtney in the shadow realm. Now it's Pat and Shade in the shadow realm, and it's like, come on now. And it's like, I don't want to have to relive we're in the shadow realm again. Like, I mean, I just didn't want to have to do that. So like, I was kind of like, I know they'll get out. There was like no stakes, because the first time it happened, I was like, oh shit, like, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen? But now I'm like, I know that they're gonna get out, Pat and Shade. Like, I know that they are. I mean, hell, the Shade is in there. I think he's going to solve the problem of, like, his powers going haywire, maybe, because he's in there now. Who knows? I don't know. But I feel like they're both going to get out, I feel like. And I mean, I feel like I'm not worried about it. And then we have Courtney, and I'll put up the promo, like, after I'm done talking about it. And that's pretty much, like, it, though. Is, like, that's how the episode ends. And it's like, again, Pat and, again, Barb and Mike and Yolanda and Rick and Beth all succeeded with their missions of getting the cameras. They all succeeded. And the moment I really loved is that when it's Rick and Beth and they have to get one last camera in their classroom, that's when the electricity comes on and Beth's like, oh no, he can see us, or they can see us, or like she just says, uh-oh. And then that's when pretty much Rick looks at the camera and says, whoever you are, we're coming for you. And ends up punching the camera, which again, I'm so for Rick all like in the zone, like, oh, you know what I mean? I don't have to worry about, an hour going by and then me losing my abilities. Like, this is 24 hours, baby. Anytime I need it, it's go time for me. It's unlimited. But it's like, it's changing his DNA. It has to be. It's making him act a different way that, like, we usually don't see Rick acting that way. We know he was excited about this, but it's doing something to him. And I do think that, again, his father put that in there for a reason, because maybe his father knew that if this 1 hour like dampener doesn't get put on, so that way the strength leaves at a certain amount of time, it could change somebody's personality, it could change somebody's DNA. Who knows? I'm just a little worried that it's definitely doing something to Rick, and I think Beth is seeing that too. Like, what the hell is Rick? Why are you acting like, you know what I mean? I feel like I hope they realize that before it's too late, and like Rick starts fighting people and stuff. I hope they can just realize that something's wrong. I think Beth realizes that something is wrong. So honestly, I'm just excited to see where things are gonna go. I'm gonna play the promo right now for episode 8 of Stargirl next week, so I'm gonna put that up right now.
This is the Shadowlands. This place preys on your fears.
What's going on? Where are my friends?
You and your friends who will all die.
So you guys just saw that. You guys just saw the promo for episode 8 of Stargirl. Like I said, it's pretty, it's about Pat and Shade getting out of the Shadow Realm, and it's pretty much Courtney and it's Jenny realizing who the big bad is, and it's pretty much, Courtney says to Mr. Bones, where's my friends? And then at that moment, that's when, Mr. Bones says, we're going to kill all your friends or whatever. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think he has powers. Then again, I don't know this villain. So if you guys know this villain, does he have powers? I'm really curious to know. I hope he's just not some like, the pervert that looks at people through cameras. I mean, I was like, at least I told my sister too, because my sister was, we were trying to remember places that cameras were. And I think my sister ended up saying like, oh, there's no cameras in their rooms at least. I was like, yeah, at least he's not a total pervert. Like, damn. I was like, at least he's not doing some shit like that. I was like, okay, like that's good at least. But like, is that all this villain does is just lurk at people, at computer screens of the cameras he set up? Which I still would love to know how the hell he managed to do that. Like, how did he do that? Like, how did he do it? And also, if I'm being honest, it just popped into my head right now. I don't think Mr. Bones does have any abilities. I think the person that killed the gambler was Todd, Jenny's brother. I think that explains the rippage of the trailer, the big freaking hole in the trailer, and the stab wounds. And also, I'm gonna call it right now. I think it explains the flight, because he was flying in that mist. He was like flying, and I think he was the one that grabbed Sylvester. I'm gonna call it right now. And literally, when he said, "I'm like, don't let me out. I'm gonna hurt people," I think he realized that, oh my god, Mr. Bones has been using me as his attack dog, essentially. I think that's really what's going on, like using him as like a weapon. But I'm really curious to know what did you guys think about this episode? Did you guys like this episode? Do you guys kind of feel where I'm feeling, where it kind of feels like it's repetitive, where like we're back in the shadow dimension and we know that they're gonna get out? So it's like we don't have that sense feeling from when Courtney and Cindy went into the shadow dimension. We're like, oh my god, are they actually gonna get out? I had that feeling. Even though Courtney was our main character, I was like, I felt like, oh my god, is she gonna get out? Like, or is she gonna be in there a little bit longer? Like, what's gonna happen? But I don't feel that with Pat and Shade. I know they're gonna get out, and it feels very repetitive. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't like this. If especially if they're gonna be in there for a while, I'm really gonna hate this. Because also, not gonna lie, this season's been lacking when it comes to hand-to-hand fight choreography. And I noticed it. The only really thing that we got hand-to-hand fight choreography was when it was the Crocs, Sportsmaster and Tigress versus Starman in the grocery store. That's the only time we got some hand-to-hand combat fighting like that. I'm kind of disappointed because when it comes to like why I love this show is the story and the fight choreography. And I'm a little annoyed that, you know, we're 7 episodes in and we only got one hand-to-hand fight choreography scene. And honestly, that scene was badass, but it wasn't better than, I'm telling you right now, the best fight sequence was the cafeteria fight sequence in Stargirl season 2. That cafeteria fight sequence, they were going in on each other. Like I rewatch it occasionally from time to time. Like that was a peak ass fight sequence, and the fight sequences in season 1 were crazy. Nothing I've ever seen on the CW before. And you know what I mean? This is like, again, like this is like at the time of like, you know, when you know, like we had things prior to that. I didn't think anything would be better when it came to fight choreography. Like because we had Arrow, like peak Arrow at the time, like the earlier seasons of Arrow. Even with Flash, we had some good fight sequences with the Flash, but like Arrow was like top notch fighting. I didn't think that going to any other show, I could see better fight sequences like on the CW until Stargirl showed up. I was like, oh my god, they're going in 10 times more than even what Arrow was doing. So it's like, it's crazy to me that, you know, this is what the show is really known for, like the hand-to-hand fight choreography, and we've only had one sequence, and it wasn't even with our main characters, like, you know what I mean, like with the new JSA team, like, you know what I mean. So that was kind of annoying. And I'm hoping we just get more of that, because I'm thinking to myself, I don't see any of the JSA members actually fighting Mr. Bones, because if this dude has no abilities and he's using Todd as his weapon, that's going to be so boring, because it's like, where's all the hand to hand fight choreography right here? Like, what are they going to be fighting off, like a cloud the entire time? You know how boring that's going to be. So I just hope that we get more fight sequences, more hand-to-hand combat. I hope that Mr. Bones actually has powers and we can actually like fight him and shit. I'm hoping, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, that kind of annoys me, because it's like, we could do that a little bit with the Eclipso. We could do some stuff like that. You know what I mean? We had some cool fight sequences last season, but mainly it was with Cindy's new Injustice Society, like with Artemis, and also I forget the other kid's name on the top of my head, with the Fiddler's son. We had some cool fight. That was like the only really like hand-to-hand fight choreography we had at that time. So I'm really hoping that we get that more. And I would say, well, actually that's not true. We had the fight sequence between Sportsmaster and Tigress and also Starman, but we also had the fight sequence with Rick Yolanda fighting Cindy. But even then, that was cut very short when Courtney showed up. So it's kind of like, I hope we actually just, our characters actually get to fight this villain. And I hope this villain can actually like fight and actually has abilities, because it's going to be boring if he's just been lurking through the cameras and being weird and literally torturing somebody so that he can use that person as his weapon. It's like, I don't find that very interesting. I mean, I need someone that actually is capable of being a villain and actually like is capable of fight, because it gives our characters something to do. You know what I mean? It's like, it's boring when our characters can't fight. It's like, come on. You know what I mean? That's what got us really into the show, is the fight choreography and the great storytelling. I just don't want it to get repetitive, and I want more fight sequences. You know, and I want to see more Artemis. What do I have to do to see more Artemis? That character has been literally sitting on the bench this entire season. We've seen her once. Once. We saw her once in the cafeteria when she said, "Go team," and then we saw her again, and I think it was the same episode when she had her outfit on, and she tried trying out for the team. That was it. I don't want this show to be bad. I love this show, but like I gotta say it how it is. Like, you know, I'm catching all these little things. I'm like, I don't want it to be repetitive, and I see repetitiveness right now. I don't want the show to lose why a lot of people love this show, with the fight choreography and the great storytelling. And you know, I don't want the show to be like other CW shows where it's like you have all these great characters, but you literally use all the characters except one character, which is Artemis. They do this on every other CW show, I swear to God, where it's like they use either all the characters except one, or they use one character and don't use any of the other characters. I swear to God, it's like a CW curse. But honestly, I'm really curious to know, yet again, did you guys like this episode? Yes or no? What was your favorite sequence of this episode? And also, do you guys kind of understand where I'm coming from like with my like things that I've been like catching, my little nitpicks that I have. You guys understand where I'm coming from. Other than that, guys, if you are new here to the channel, subscribe to the channel, put in notifications, and like this video. I would love to have you guys here, a part of the fam, a part of the channel, whether it's spreading love, positivity, and motivation. Yet again, guys, my Patreon is up. All the episodes of Andor are up, except I think except this episode 7 and 6, I think, aren't up. I think the reason for that is because I upload my videos to a second party. I don't upload them on YouTube and then upload them to Patreon. I have to upload them on a different app to upload them on Patreon, and that app only has a certain amount of storage to storage those videos so I could put them up on Patreon. So it usually says like once you run out of storage, you have to wait until the next following week to drop something. So hopefully I'll be able to drop, if not, I can't remember if it's one video I have to drop next week or 2 videos I have to drop next week, whether it be 6 and 7 or just episode 7 next week and not 6, and 6 might already be up. I think it is 6 and 7 I have to drop next week, but I'll have more. Hopefully I'll have more storage so I could drop those 2 episodes and also episode 8 next week. I hope so. But yeah, there's so much more that not only that, me reacting to episodes of Andor, but after that, I'm going to put up polls of different shows that and different choices for you guys to choose from to see what show you guys want me to do episode reactions to next. And not only that, I have polls up right now of multiple different Halloween movies to see for our live movie watch along, which is going to be starting on the 3rd. It's going to start on the 30th, the day before Halloween. I think it starts at 7 o'clock, the 30th, and I'm super excited. That's my first movie like watch along. So if you guys want to be in the live stream and watch the movie along with me, again, go subscribe to my Patreon and go vote on the polls about what movie you guys want to do, what movie you guys want to watch in the live movie watch along. Like, let me know what movie you guys want to watch. Right now, the thing that's winning is Werewolf by Night, and I'm super happy about that. Like, I love that. Like, I've been wanting to watch Werewolf by Night anyways, like around, like, you know what I mean, before like Halloween ended. So it just so happens that like already like 2 people have voted on Werewolf by Night, and I'm happy about that. But I'm really curious. I have some other great options up there too, and I want to know if we can have some like different, some like you know what I mean, like some competition for a Werewolf by Night. I'm excited to see if we can have anything like that, you know what I mean, and see what we're going to be watching on the 30th, because I'm super excited. And we're going to be doing like so many different things. I offer so many different things on so many different tier. I have 3 different tiers, and I offer so many different options. So yet again, go look at my Patreon, and again, if you want to subscribe, that would be amazing. But yeah, honestly, guys, yet again here, if you are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, put those notifications, like this video. And yeah, guys, I hope everybody has a great day, a safe day, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week for episode 8 of Stargirl. Peace.